It's the big show on Thursday evening. It's the first time back in 9 years since their 30th anniversary tour in 2010. Welcome Mark King from Level 42 to the show. Mark, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Chris. 9 years since we were there last.
Yeah.
Obviously it went well then.
And I'm so pleased you're coming back. Listen, 9 years since you were last here, but honest to goodness, let me ask you the first question. Why are you still doing it?
I love it. I mean, I love playing in Level 42. The band is a great sort of vehicle for the style of bass playing that I do. Yeah. The musicians that I play with are wonderful. I mean, Mike Lindup on keyboards we've been together now 40 years, coming up to 40 years, and I still get such a buzz, just being on stage with Mike, and he's a wonderful musician. My younger brother, Nathan King, who is 12 years my junior, has been playing with me now since 1999, so that's 20 years. We have a full brass section these days. We have Sean Freeman, saxophone, Danny Carpenter, trumpet, and Nicole Thompson on trombone. Fantastic players too. And we've got amazing Pete Ray Biggin on drums, who first sat in with us, Chris, when he was 11 years old.
I've seen that video.
Yeah.
It's on social media, and I've seen that video.
Mike was an avid, an avid video taker, and it just so happened when I think it was Leeds University or Sheffield University, something like that. We were getting off the bus, and there was this young lad there with a few albums under his arm, which asked us to sign, and then he said, "Could I sit in with the sound check?" Sure, and Gary. He absolutely adored Gary Husband's playing. Gary was a sweetheart, and let him get on the drums. And I said, "Which songs of ours do you know, Pete?" And he said, "I know all of them." And we sort of rattled off 3 or 4 songs, and we all thought then that he was going to be really something special. So wind forward, how many years it is? I don't know, 30 odd years, and he's got the gig now, and he's been with me since. In fact, I think he might have played with us. That would have been one of his first gigs when we were at Villa Marina in 2010.
Yeah. Look at your back catalogue. 7 live albums, I think. 6 compilations.
Probably more now. I have a habit of just sort of recording them and then just sticking them out. And I always like to film the shows too, Chris, because we've had such a good and loyal fan base over the years that I almost feel duty bound that if they weren't able to make a gig or something on the tour, that at least they can get a copy of it and in some half decent quality. So and sort of just back to the whole playing thing of why I'm still doing it is because it's a fantastic thing to do. And talk about lucky, I'm just reaching out for a bit of wood here. I've been able to do this my entire life, really. The only other jobs that I've had, it was a milkman when I got thrown out of school for a year, and and a job in McCurry's music shop. Otherwise, it's Level 42's been my entire life. And any time anybody you meet that does what they love to do and can actually, make a bob or two doing it, make a living, has got to be a really lucky guy, I think.
The band's gone through a lot of different lineups in the past, and but how do you reinvent that, Mark?
It almost reinvents itself, Chris, because everything changes all the time, and that's just the only constant in life, really. So where we started out as 4 mates, just jamming at the Guildhall School of Music where Mike was studying on a Monday night, to sort of 5 years later, we were having hits either side of the Atlantic, and and then 2 years after that the 2 of the original members, Phil and Boone, left, and it's really just the way things work. I don't know anything that doesn't just change organically, and Level 42 certainly seems to have done that. And you can only see that, of course, in hindsight. So you get up to where we're at now, and we've had 20 festivals in the diary for this summer, and they've all been absolutely brilliant. And the band's really red hot at the moment. So anybody that is thinking, should I go and see the band on Thursday night?
Oh, absolutely, do so.
We might not go back for another 9 years.
You seem as busy now as you were in the 80s. Am I wrong? Because it seems to me you're gigging as much as you were then. And listen, you were all over the place. You sold 30 million albums in the 80s.
Yeah, it's great. This summer we've been in, just sort of over 1 week. We were in Quebec, in Canada, and then we were in Kildare in Ireland, and then the next gig was St. Petersburg in Russia.
Yeah.
And then sort of back off up to Scandinavia, then down to Holland, and then back over to the UK. It's so great. It's just a great fun thing to do, and I love playing festivals, particularly Chris, because you have this it's an unpartisan crowd. They
sure.
could be there just for the experience or seeing another artist, but if the band's on fire, you pick up new fans. So it's all good, and I guess that's reflected in the fact that that business just keeps going, and believe me, that the promoters, if they're not really into it, they won't book you again.
No, sure. Is it easier now than it was then?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's more fun. The pressure's off. I turned 60 last year, and the difference of doing it when you're 60 to say when you're 22 years old is that there's that the songs are written. You've got the catalogue of songs.
Yeah.
You haven't got a record company breathing down your neck saying, look, you haven't been in the top 20 for 3 months. You've got to do something, and all of that stuff is actually quite stressful. So to not have that, to just be able to swan around and have enough songs in the catalogue that you can mix it up and deeper cuts, and then the sort of the main hits too. That I always still love playing those things too. So it's more fun. All the guys in the band really are the sort of best of mates, and I can't say this so that my wife will hear it, but it's actually always very nice to step on the two of us, and the lads, off we go again, another little knees up for 3 or 4 days. It's brilliant.
What do you do in your spare time, Mark? What do you do to relax?
It doesn't sound very rock and roll, but I like getting my hands dirty, and I'm an Island man as well, so I live on the Isle of Wight as opposed to the Isle of Man.
Sure.
And we've got a couple of greenhouses, and we've got vegetable plots and herb gardens and a fruit cage, and I built a barn a while back, and I've got a sort of a bit of land here and stuff too, which I thoroughly enjoy, because I can have diggers and tractors and things like that.
And you've got more time to do that now than you did have before, I guess, as well.
Well, it's another nice thing about festivals, because festivals by their nature always seem to be around weekend time. So sort of my weekends this summer always seems to have been sort of Monday to Wednesday, and I can just swan around. The weather here today is absolutely beautiful, so I get out and then just enjoy life. But I've also got a nice studio here, and the project that I'm working on at the moment is at the end of this month we're playing at the Abbey Road sessions.
Yes, I believe that, yeah.
Yeah, for the 50th anniversary, of course, of Abbey Road, which I'm thoroughly looking forward to, and we've got to play a couple of Beatles tunes. So I've been spending time in the studio, arranging them, because they had so many songs, and I've chosen We Can Work It Out, and I've got to Get You Into My Life.
Two fantastic, great songs.
Because they're songs that the lineup that the band has at the moment, I know we can do justice to, but we're also playing with the BBC Concert Orchestra, so I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be quite a thing.
How do you choose what to play? Do you have a set list that you would play for a festival, or for your European tour, or do you on the spur of the moment, do you throw something in and say, I'll tell you what, let's do this today, guys? Well,
we'll be doing, yes, sometimes we do. We did exactly that in the last festival in Germany, that we were sort of halfway through the set, and I just said, should we play such and such, and the lads are all over it, so it's great, and you can be spontaneous. That sometimes, of course, it's like the way you start and the way you finish, and you have the songs that the good people that have paid money to come and see you would expect to hear, the bigger hits. So you're kind of duty bound to put those in. I don't know, I have no problem doing that either. But I've learned over the years that if you actually intersperse the hits with some of the deeper cuts, and maybe a couple of instrumentals, and then back to another hit, and then another deeper cut, you get a very good balance, because it keeps everybody happy, and it's not as if you sort of go swanning off into some kind of totally self-indulgent section.
Well, you say that, but everybody wants the bass solo, don't they?
Well, do they? I'm glad you said that, Chris, because I've been starting to wonder. It's when people start glazing over.
No. Everybody wants one of those. Listen, I'm going to bounce you. I know we're short of time. I want to bounce you with a couple of questions. I don't want to catch you out. You've got a massive social media presence, not only with level42.com, but there's a lot of appreciation sites, and I just posed the question a couple of months ago that I was going to talk to you regarding Thursday night's gig, and I had a couple of questions which came up to me, and it isn't the £1 million thumb question, and it isn't are you going to reform the band, which incidentally, sadly, of course, in case people don't know, will never happen now because you sadly lost your very good friend and bandmate Boone earlier in the year, which was a terrible shame.
He was one of my best friends, and
and it's a terrible shock for you and everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a massive shock. And like I said, Boone and I have been best friends really since I was 15 years old. So that's a lifetime. But it's as we sort of said a few minutes ago, that things change and things move on, and there has to be a progression and a reinvention. So it's not something that would have happened anyway.
No.
But it's and I'm cool with that. I'm just sort of relaxed with the whole thing. And also too is that sometimes it just doesn't pay to go back because it wouldn't be what people thought. The great stuff that we did back then, if I'll say it myself, sorry about that. All that good stuff is there, and it's.
Do you know that sometimes the worst thing, Mark, is that when sometimes people go back and try and reinvent what they did before, and people can be quite disappointed by that.
Yes, it's absolutely true. That over the years there've been sort of many reformations and things. And it doesn't. I think that as an 8-year-old boy, Cream were everything to me. And Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker and Eric Clapton were just amazing, and they sort of set the world on fire and set a blazing path for everybody else to follow. The Reformation in 2005, there was no way it could match up to that, which kind of begs the question. Was it worth doing it? But it doesn't. It's not my choice, is it? But that's not what I want to do with the band.
No, sure. And you've got a great setup now, and happy birthday to your brother, by the way, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, no, he's knocking on a bit now, isn't he? It's really, that's when you start feeling old. It's not
Aren't we all?
In my head, I felt 23, but it's when you start looking, you think, hang on, my little brother's just turned 49.
Okay, listen, I'm going to bounce you with two questions before we say goodbye. First is for Chris Boyd, who wants to say, are you coming to Perth, Western Australia?
Oh, I'll tell you what, my eldest daughter actually lives there, mate. So
right.
I am coming down personally in December because I'm going to be a grandfather. Sadly, not with the band, though. But we are looking. We're looking right now. Neil Warnock, my agent at UTA, is talking to two promoters that we're doing 2 shows. Whether we actually get over to the West Coast, I don't know, but we'll certainly be over in the East Coast. So it's only about 6,000 miles.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I was going to ask you was there seems to be a huge following for you in the States.
Yeah, we've always had a really good following over there. We haven't toured there really since 2010 either.
And they're screaming for you, Mark.
Sorry?
They're screaming for you.
Yeah, well, scream away, guys. We'll get there. Yeah, it will play anywhere that a promoter will put us on.
Exactly. It's all about whether things line up in the right places. Yeah, I understand that. Mark King, considered by many to be one of the greatest bass players in the world. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Have you got one parting comment maybe for people who are going to come and see you on Thursday? I know it's almost a sellout. Yeah. It's about 1,600 or so, but they're going to give you a fantastic welcome and they're going to love to see you back. What can they expect to hear?
Well, you're gonna hear the hits, and you'll hear more. You'll hear a band that's really on point at the moment. So do come and see it. You'll have a great time, and put your dancing shoes on by all means. We like people to dance.
Well, it's standing downstairs, so it's not a fully seated venue. The seats are upstairs, as you probably remember. So we'll be down in the mosh pit, as they call it. And we'll be screaming for you. And if you see a spotty-nosed once teenager in his mid-50s with a very old 1983 Level 42 T-shirt with a silver pen, it'll probably be me.
Right, I'll sign that for you, mate. I shall, whatever value it had, I'll write off immediately.
Mark, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us.